welcome to Being Black and Craft, where we don't apologize for recognizing our influence on craft beer. This is Angie, the undeniable vixen, your host for this evening, and we have an amazing guest, per usual. But I have some church announcements, of course. So let's get into it. And first off, want to let you know that the tickets are on sale right now. For Barrel and Flow, the early bird special is over with. So regular pricing as is. So if you got the 5, you need the 5 to pay for those tickets. Also, remember that at CBC, it's coming up. It's 19 days away, 18 days away now. And the National Black Brewers Association is going to do a tap takeover at Beer Zombies. Make sure that you go and follow their page to RSVP to get in there, and said they're going to be pouring about 20 different beers. I did get a little bit more better clarification. I thought that we're going to have a conference as well, but just a tap takeover next year is going to be bigger and better. So you have to keep that up. Keep following that. Then, unfortunately, some sad news. In my neck of the wood, and Fort Worth, Texas, Neutral Ground had their 3rd anniversary as well as their fond farewell. Unfortunately, they did go ahead and close. And here is a quote from Sean Dublé, where he's saying, "It's definitely nobody's plan to open up a business just to shut down. We're sad that our dream didn't pan out, but the regret of trying and not succeeding is a lot better than the regret of not trying and not knowing." And I can totally agree with that. I do have fond memories of going to Neutral Ground and sharing and laughing and having a great time with friends and family. And I hope that it's not farewell forever, that they'll come back and do bigger and better things, as well as if you're in the Fort Worth area or DFW area, they still have some beers out at some local HEB. So you may be able to grab a 6-pack or 2. Then I'm going to segue into, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, we were talking to Danica with Grown Folks and her seltzers. So guess what? If you were thinking that, oh my gosh, I'm not in California, I can't get this, now you can go online and buy it. So, and I went looking around, and you can get a variety pack, which is so great. I'm so glad that you did that. You can get a variety pack. I think a minimum purchase is like $25, and I think the 6-pack is like 15 and some change, not including like the shipping and everything. So go in, put in your zip code, and see if you can get it shipped to you. But it is in Texas. So I know someone was actually asking me about Grown Folks and saying that it sounded so delicious, you wanted to get it. Now you can. So I think those are all of my church announcements. So let me go ahead. One big church announcement, because I always forget. Make sure that you like, follow, and share us. Being Black and Craft, we have the podcast, which is available every Tuesday. Then we are always live on every Monday on Instagram, X, aka Twitter, and also YouTube. So if you like, comment, and share on YouTube, it will actually allow you to continue to follow us. So when I go live, you're the first ones to know. So do that and share with your friends and family and make us bigger and better, because we want to be the NPR of the craft beer community. So that was my last little statement there. And let me go ahead and add our guests. Good evening, Monique. How are you?
Hello. How are you?
Good. Amazing. I'm so excited to talk to you. And I was, I don't know. I think, usually what I end up doing is scrolling Instagram and loving Jesus like I do, minding my own business. I found momentum. And I was like, oh, this is amazing, because the only other cider person that I knew that was doing cider was Hannah and Dope in Youngstown.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So we're covering the globe. We're covering the globe.
Yep.
So one of the things I want to know is, so is Momentum your full-time job?
Excuse me. No, Momentum isn't my full-time job. So it's almost a full-time job. But I do have a 9 to 5. I do have a 9 to 5.
Okay.
I work out of Providence Hospital in San Pedro. So I do something completely different. I'm in public health. Yep. So yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. So that's a pretty good variation. So is that do you feel like sometimes I'm going to work to relax because something might have been a little bit more stressful when you're trying to make your cider, or vice versa? Is that
You
more
know
what?
what? I think it's a very fine balance. I wish I had more time to work on my cider, but you know what? I think it's a fine balance because sometimes when I'm overwhelmed with cider, I can just kind of go to work
Yeah,
and not
yeah,
think
yeah.
about it. But the reality is, it's always going to be there. As soon as I get home from work, I want to get something that I have to think about, something that I have to do for my cider business. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's you know what? I love the challenge. I love the challenge, and I like being busy. So I
Well,
like
okay.
being busy.
So for people who may not know the ins and outs of cider, can you give us like a quick down and dirty like explanation of what cider is and how you create it?
Cool. So cider is basically a, a drink, an alcoholic beverage. It doesn't have to be alcoholic, but a hard cider. We'll talk about hard cider, which is made primarily from apples. And once the apples become fermented, then obviously you can catch a little buzz from it, just like wine. And the longer that the apples are fermented with the juice, then you have this, a beautiful drink called cider, hard cider.
Okay.
When we were younger, we would drink, hot cider and bubbly cider. Martinelli's makes a really good pear cider, apple cider. But this one here is has liquor in it. Once the yeast converts the apples and the sugar, and it breaks down and all that scientifical stuff, then you have cider.
Do you use any particular yeast, or do you like experiment with different yeast?
That's a good question. So I have been experimenting with different yeasts, but the yeast that I find to be works really good is the champagne yeast. We have a cider yeast, which
Mm.
I like, but I primarily use the champagne yeast.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I'm wondering, I want you to go way, way back. I know
Okay,
you
let's
can't
go
you
way
can't
back.
go way back as far as I can
Let's
because
go way back.
I'm 50. But do you remember the first time that you had a drink? And do you remember what it was?
Well, the first time I can remember having a drink was I was in the 8th grade. I'll never forget it. And it was 8th grade ditch day. And I was in middle school in Compton, California. Shout out to Compton. And we were at a park. We were at Gonzalez Park, and it was 8th grade ditch day, and somebody
Mm,
had like some cans of like Coke 45,
mm.
and so somebody
Sounds
opened it
good.
like they stole it from like their little brother, their big brother, or something like that, and everybody was like, oh, we're gonna drink this beer. And I just remember everybody like, taking a couple swigs and acting all like, ooh, you know, I'm,
Yeah.
my head is dizzy.
Right.
But that was the first time. Yeah, that was the first time I ever can remember having that's a good memory too. It just made me laugh a little bit. Thank you for having me bring that up. That was
Oh,
very
good.
cool. Just a
So,
bunch of little kids and drinking beer in the park, 8th grade ditch day is hilarious.
so
Ah,
but I'm gonna make the assumption that since that time and present day, uh, that maybe your drink of choice has changed some.
well, yeah, I'm not drinking Coke 45. You can best believe that. I've evolved. from drinking beer in the park, so to speak. But yes, I like wine, I like beer. But I love cider. Cider is something that works really good with my palate. I love the sweeter ciders. For me, sweeter ciders and some of the dry ciders work really good for my palate, so I just kind of stick to what I know. But I
Yes.
remember the first time having a cider, and I was like, "This is really good. Like this is it." I really like this taste. It
Okay.
it didn't drag me down, and it was refreshing. I had a little bit of a buzz, but I wanted another one. It was something that um, I just thoroughly enjoyed drinking. Yeah,
Okay. So it was a progression. So cider
yeah,
was ended up being the last thing, but it was the thing that
absolutely.
kind of took hold.
Absolutely. I was like, yeah,
Okay.
I like this. I didn't really get into like making cider or anything like that until many years later, but I knew that once I tasted cider that was something that I, wanted to have again.
So as the beer industry is growing and learning that Black people do actually drink beer,
Hmm.
um, and we actually, oddly enough, we make it. If you didn't
Hmm.
know, how is the cider industry kind of embracing that thought? Are you seeing a change as far as the demographic, or what are you seeing so far?
That's a really good question. And so let's talk about beer for a second. So, I've done my research and in the beer industry, and we do know that only 2% of African Americans, make up the brewing industry, which is a very, very low number. And
It's less than 1%, actually.
right, and
Yeah,
oh wow, so less than one
yeah,
percent.
yeah.
And so, as far as the cider is concerned, it's pretty much the same,
Mm,
less than 1%. Like we're talking about, like, my goal is to own a tap room, own a cidery. There's only two Black women owned cideries in the United States. And if I have one, it would be the third. You know what I mean? So
okay.
there's just not a big number of diversity in cider. However, that's where I come in at. That's where Hannah comes in at. That's where other people come in at who are stepping into the cider industry, creating not creating a pathway for people that look like you and I
Mhm.
to become successful in that industry. So it is very sparse, but we do have. We also forgot to mention, obviously, the cider Psalms, um, Malika and her husband that are cider connoisseurs. I love what they're doing.
I don't know them. Tell me more.
Oh, you have to meet them. They're a husband and wife couple, and they are really, really doing it in the cider industry. They pretty much go all over promoting cider. I
Okay.
was able to meet them at Cider Con last year, and they actually featured me in their. They had the Black History Month, Black people doing it in cider, and so they actually featured me, which was nice of them. But yeah, you have to meet the Cider Psalms.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll tag you guys on
Yes, please.
Instagram. Yeah,
Yes, please
they're a great
do.
couple, African American husband and wife couple that are really, really making a way for a diversity in the cider industry.
So you mentioned something, and it made me kind of segue into another question that I had for you, which was
Mhm.
you do want a brick and mortar.
I do. I do want a brick and mortar. That's my goal, is to be the first Black woman owned cidery in California,
Mhm.
or Black, a cidery or tap room in
Yeah.
California. That's my end goal. Yes.
So so tell me, with money is not an object.
Right.
I walk in on a random Tuesday. What am I gonna find when I step into Momentum Cidery?
What you're gonna find, first off, what you're gonna be hearing is some really good music. Some really nice music that's going to keep the rhythm going. You may even see, depending on the day, you may even see a live performance. I want live music there, and you're going to see a very cheerful and upbeat atmosphere, something that you can sit down and, you might see your neighbor down the street. I want it to be a homely atmosphere for the community, somewhere that the community can come and unwind and enjoy themselves. So that's what you're going to find, just a great home-based community environment.
Okay. Okay. And I love live music. I love to be able to
Mhm.
sit somewhere and mull over something and I don't have anywhere to go and just I'm
Absolutely.
enjoying myself enough to where I don't even if I felt like I needed somewhere to go, I'm gonna have to go ahead and reschedule that because I'm enjoying where I'm at.
Absolutely. And you're bringing family members, you're letting your family members know, hey, we got to go to this this place. This is the first Black woman-owned cidery in California. We have to come visit this place. This is a piece of history here. So let's go down there and then support the woman. Support her.
So when you're making your cider, what's your like average ABV on it?
So my average ABV is ranging between 5% ABV, 5 and 6% ABV.
Okay.
And that's a really good solid number for
Mhm.
cider. I think anything over 7% is you have to go through ABC and all these different avenues,
Mm,
PTB and all these different things. But I think our limit is 7 or 8%. It turns into
okay.
some it turns into something different after that.
It turns as it goes as far as I tear into the spirits.
Yeah, right. Maybe like a spirit or something like that. Absolutely. Because we
Okay.
have like cider has what I would call a spirit, like Pomo. And it's more like an apple wine, an apple brandy. It's
Mhm,
really
mhm,
good. It's really, really strong. And so when you start making things that have higher ABVs, it starts to turn into stuff like that, more of a spirit.
okay.
Yeah, they
So
categorize it differently. Absolutely.
so my question that I was gonna have as far as like making things in barrel aging, that would
Uh-huh.
be that would not necessarily be in your wheelhouse
Well,
as far as like
you can have a barrel aged cider. Oh, absolutely. Shoot, a girl, I'm looking for one of those feeders now. I had
okay.
I went to a women in whiskey women's group. They women who love whiskey, and they had a speaker. Uncle Nearest, the whiskey speaker,
Yeah.
and we were talking about different ways of having like barrel aged liquors and stuff. And I found out that you can have these barrel aged feeders that they go for $10,000, $20,000. Big companies
Mm,
can buy. Companies can buy these feeders that have been used for years with different whiskey or cognac or something like that, and then they don't want them anymore. They can sell them to companies like myself or other companies that will buy them just because of the liquid that was in there. You can make a cider from a barrel aged something that had a whiskey in it for 20 years, and oh yeah, your cider is going to come out really good.
okay. But is it gonna it's but it won't necessarily stay in that same ABV range. It's gonna go up or no.
It may go up depending on the type of liquid that was in there and how long it stayed, how long it was
Okay.
fermenting in the actual barrel. So yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Okay. Because I was like, oh, well, maybe not. I was like, well, maybe yes. I said, well, maybe no. But I had no idea what the price point of the feeders were. I didn't know
Yeah.
they ranged
They're
that
really, they're
high.
really, if they're used, oh, absolutely. Because, you
Yeah.
want to be able to, it's like, I guess, like a reused barbecue pit or something. I don't know, something that's
Yeah.
reused that can be used for a benefit to another company. Yeah. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
found that out recently.
Yeah, I mean, I drink a lot of like the thing that I'm drinking right now is it's a bourbon. No, I'm sorry, it's a whiskey that's been in Cabernet uh, um, barrels, and
So
it
how does
has
that taste?
oh,
Does it have a wine finish? How does it
yes,
taste?
it's absolutely delicious.
Wow.
It's absolutely delicious. It has that sweetness from the wine, but it's
Hmm.
still bold and still very. It kind of makes a little bit of a mellowness. It's mellow. I
Right.
can't.
Okay.
It's still mellow, and it's not overpowering. It's not fighting it. The one is not fighting the other. It's a
Absolutely.
nice, delicious blend. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
This was pretty cool. But yeah, okay. I was wondering about that. So you kind of mentioned, and I wonder what your take was outside of using, because it's like a concentrate as far as like apple
Right.
that you're using. So in just in your own world, that's just going to be like sky's the limit. What complexity would you like to add to apples? Like you mentioned pear. Is there
Hmm.
something that you have always wanted to dream of doing that you may have not done, or you've already done, um, as far as making something new in your cider?
Right. So sometimes I'll use, you know what, to be honest with you, I haven't really used concentrated juice. I usually just use a juice, some type of regular juice that in freshly pressed apple juice from like Trader Joe's or something like that, a local store, and I make my cider from there. I have experimented with different types of cider. Like sometimes I will use like like earlier on I was using like pineapple,
Mm.
um a pineapple concentrate. Back then, I was using like, Kool-Aid to make cider. I was
Wait, hold
trying
on.
all these different things. I made a water wine. I made a water. It's like you can make a water wine. I was trying the different things when I first. Yeah, girl, I was
Wait, wait,
trying all
girl,
kinds of
stop.
stuff.
You're taking it too fast. Hold on. Kool-Aid cider.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's really just the
Really?
colors. Yeah, it's really just the colors and the flavoring, But I wanted to stick more to the craft of ciders. And so I said, you know what? Let me stick to the craft. It's like cider is apples. So let's stick to apples. So I've
Okay.
tried different excuse me, different types of apples. There's different types of apples. So that's where the complexities in the cider begin, is using different types of apples. You have, your pippins, and you just have all these different types of apples, Newton pippins, and your blush apples. You have apples that have red flesh in them. So I
Mm,
know cider makers who, use that. The key is to have an orchard, right? So you can have
yeah.
different varietals of apples. Or do we have enough soil and good soil in Southern California for that? No, we don't. But if you
Mm-mm.
go up north, you may have some. If you go down south, like Calico Cidery, they're up towards San Diego. That's where the apples become a little bit more fertile, and you have more room and to grow apples. So I think I went off on a tangent, but yes,
No, no,
but
it's
yes, I have used different. Like I make a cranberry cider. I made a cranberry and plum cider.
okay.
Cranberry apple cider, not cran apple juice, but when you make it with you start off with the apple juice, right? And then you ferment it, and then you back sweeten it. So after it's already fermented and ready to go, you can back sweeten it instead of using like sugar to back sweeten your ciders. You can back sweeten it with, a blueberry juice or something like that, something that you think might work. And it usually turns out pretty good.
So
So
when you're saying back Sweden for myself and others who will be listening to this later on, you're
mhm.
saying that it's maybe is it at the point before you back Sweden, if I'm getting the idea, maybe it's a little
so
bit too a little
so
tart and it's adding more sugar, making it more sweet.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's exactly what that is. After you've, tasted it and you've given it a little taste test, instead of adding another sugar or fructose or anything like that, most cider makers just back sweeten it with a juice that they like, a juice that they prefer, apple juice or something like that. Yeah.
Is there a particular apple that you like? Yeah, not so much.
I haven't found an apple that I haven't liked so much because they once you ferment them and everything, and I won't say they all taste the same because they do have different tastes and everything, but I haven't found an apple that I didn't like.
Mhm.
So yeah, everything is good to me.
And
Everything tastes good.
what is water wine? You mentioned that too. That was something, a new term that I never heard of.
So water wine technically would be like a seltzer, but like an iced wine or like
Okay.
a, because really pretty much that's what seltzer is. Seltzer is just
Yeah.
water with, flavoring and sugar. And
Okay.
so that's pretty much what a water wine would taste like.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I had never heard it called that. So I was like, say what? That's why I was like, oh, Mona, you take me too fast. I'm learning too much. Learning too
Slow
much.
down, girl, slow down.
I'm learning so much. So I think that we talked about your brick and mortar. Where are you in that process? Do you think it'll be within the next 5 years, next 10 years?
you know, I sit and I daydream about where I am in the process of it all. And I'm right where I need to be.
Okay.
Right. I'm right where I need to be, still researching, looking for proper funding and resources to get me to that next level.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It
That's a big
really
one.
has to do with just me, and it's just me. It's not like I have anybody to, any examples to look after, but it's just I'm just in the process. I'm in the middle of it,
Mhm.
getting funding, really just getting funding and learning the resources that are available to me. Um, I would love to start like looking for locations and stuff like that. But
Right.
I might be too ahead of my time before that. So I just humble myself and just focus on creating more revenue so I can put that aside so that I'll be able to look for actual locations. But slow and steady.
Okay. Okay. So I know we had mentioned it, but I didn't get to ask you. Um, in the cider industry, what's
Mhm.
the ratio between, as far as like men to women, as far as like working in it?
That's a good question. I do see a lot of men in the cider industry, um, but there are women in the cider industry. There are
Mhm.
lots of women in the cider industry. I recently went to finished a course from CINA, which is the Cider Institute of North America,
Mm.
and excuse me, in that class there were um, an equal amount of ratio of women to men. There may be a few more men in the cider industry, but men run the world.
Child. Yeah, I get that. I get that. But I was just wondering because usually what I see
Hmm.
more women or maybe non-binary in that realm. So I wonder, where if we were dominating as far as like in
Right.
insider,
In the cider.
which is fine by me.
That's a good question. I really can't even give you a definite answer on that, but from me being from since I've been heavily in the cider industry, I see like a pretty much like an equal
Okay.
ratio of men and women. There may be sometimes where I haven't, but anything that I've noticed, there's like when I go to Cider Con, I
Mhm.
go to Cider conference, then I see an equal amount of women and
Okay.
men. Yeah.
And I'm
So
gonna ask you some questions about CytoCon in a minute.
yeah.
Um, Let me kind of segue, and we might have mentioned it, but I just want to still get your take on it. So, in a world where DEI is like a dirty word, they've
Hmm.
made it into a dirty word. It's like a gaslighting term instead of what it's supposed to be.
Hmm.
You know, how do you see it in your day to day as being a BIPOC in this industry? Whether it's from the beer, because I see you doing being a part of Pink Boots and
Hmm.
some things that they're doing, as
Hmm.
well as your cider making.
Hmm.
How how is that revolutionizing, changing that term instead of it being the dirty word that the powers that be want it to be. How are you making a difference in it as being part of the BIWAP?
Um, I'm making a difference by just excuse me, by being who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Momentum Cider is a, 100% Black woman owned company. And how I make a difference is by, coming on shows like this, sharing my story, letting everyone know that, you can be African American and an African American woman in the cider industry. You can be an African American woman in the brewing industry. You can do what you please. And I think it's just me amplifying my voice and coming on shows like this to where, you have you have a mutual agreement in amplifying voices of that for people that look like us. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how I make a change, is by coming on shows like this with you and just amplifying my voice. And what was that other show that I was on? The Bruiser Band. Yeah,
Where's the Banter's
they're my
podcast?
boys over there. Shout out to them
Yeah,
over there. They're my boys, man.
yeah.
Yeah, share my stories with you guys, and just and letting everybody know that, I am here, I exist. Momentum Cider is here, and we ain't going nowhere. you
Have you
know,
had
um,
any pushback in as you've
uh,
developed and
I,
honed your craft?
I haven't had, I won't say that I've had any pushback per se. There was a small incident that occurred earlier last year. I won't even speak on it, but
Mhm.
everything happens for a reason. You know what I mean? And I don't want to get spiritual, but God is so good to me, and that's who I represent, and that's who I love. And so I just stay focused on what's right in front of me. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? What's right in front of me, I just put one foot in front of the other, and I just go for it. Some days I wake up and say, what am I doing? What am I doing for Momentum Cider? What's going on? But I know that there are people that are, I won't say counting on me, but yeah, they're counting on me
there's an
to,
expectation.
it's,
Yeah.
it's an expectation. And so when I get that, and I get texts like, people ask me, hey, how's it going? Or, I'm rooting for you. You know what I'm saying? People I haven't seen in a long time, or people that I've met at Cider Con, and they're just like, what's going on with you? I'm rooting for you. Those are the things that just makes me feel really good, really good. Being able to, get on your show and talk about it, being able to, I won a grant from Beer Culture and Women of the Bevolution.
Oh,
People
nice.
people believe in my story, so
Hmm.
as long as you guys be the conduit, and I'm the voice, or you're the voice and I'm the conduit, and then we just, we spread love, to
Yeah,
the world.
it's great.
Yeah.
So
So
tell me more about CiderCon. So I didn't I think when we were talking about going, it was too close
mhm.
in time. So I didn't get to go to it this year. But
Mhm.
you've gone a couple of times.
I've gone a couple times, and wait, was it a couple times? I was gonna go, I think I went one time in Chicago. Was it twice? I forgot. Anyway,
So
the one time that because I was gonna go this year. That's right. I was gonna go this year.
oh,
And
okay.
what happened was, we got snowed in. A lot of people got snowed in. People made it, but the weather was so crummy. The weather was really bad in January. So I
Okay.
was on my way to go, and and got snowed in. But I went last year, and it was amazing. I mean, CiderCon is like, that's where if you love cider, that's where you need to be. So it
So
was
what
absolutely
would be the
amazing.
expectation for me? Because I'm planning on going in 2025, and I think it's going to be in Chicago.
Yeah, they're
Um,
going to do it in Chicago again this year, next year rather. What's an expectation? Make sure that you're ready to have fun and drink some cider. Okay, you're going to meet all the cider geeks that you've ever wanted to meet,
uh,
including myself. Including myself, you'll learn so much about cider, the industry. Make sure you go on a tour. The Cider Psalms did a tour. I went on there with them. We, man, we went on this really cool tour that highlighted African Americans in Chicago, and
Mm.
it was really really awesome. And we stopped at three and got some cider, and it was just a really great experience. You're going to meet cider connoisseurs, people from France, people from Canada.
Really?
Yes, because I think we're the third leading country for cider. I want to say that Canada is number one in cider right now,
Mhm.
and Europe is number two, and I think we might be number three, or Africa might be number three. I might have I think we're like number four or something, but I know for sure Canada is number one,
Mhm.
and Europe is number two as far as like
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, but when you come to CiderCon, just be prepared to drink and enjoy some of these really cool seminars and things that we have. It's awesome there. It's so awesome.
So, have you ever thought about doing a talk at CiderCon?
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
Definitely going to share some of my cider. They do a cider share. So last year
Mhm.
I didn't do any of that because I was just wanted to be a part of it. I just wanted to, you know, soak up all the energy. Next year I may be ready to, present my cider and let everyone taste my cider. So
Okay. Okay. Well,
that's
I
exciting.
hope so, because I mean,
Yes,
I'll be there, so I would love to try your cider.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Next year will be everyone will be able to taste my cider.
Okay, that sounds really good. So you are in, I know you're in California, but what part of California are you in again? Tell me
I'm in
again.
Long Beach,
You're in
California.
Long Beach. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. And, but you're close enough to where can you travel to go and get your, like, if you wanted to do something really special, uh,
Hmm.
travel up, you said up north or
Hmm.
down south? How far up north could you go if you wanted to go and, like, I want to go and pick my own ding dang apples to make this?
Oh, well, I mean, I know there's a guy who I met him at Farmers Market, downtown Long Beach Farmers Market. And he has an apple farm up in Tehachapi, California, which is not too far, a few hours drive. But
Okay.
he has about 27 different varietals. But here's the thing with that. Like, even though like making cider, depending on how you make it, there's a process, right? So you get the apples, you pick the apples, you make sure that the apples are ready to be, harvested and things like that. And then you press the apples. You need an apple press, right? They have different
Mhm.
apple presses, and then after you press the apples, you gotta filter it and do all these different things, and then it's ready to be processed and for yeast, right? So I don't have the equipment for that. So
Okay.
I do like the home brewer's way. So I buy my juice and then I ferment it, and then there you have it. So for me, it's sort of an easier process. Um,
Okay.
but but that's not to say that I don't know how to do it commercially, because I do now.
Mhm.
It would just be a matter of having a location now. Governor Newsom just approved for local breweries to have a wine license. So now breweries are going to be dabbling into the cider making
Mm.
realm, which some of us in the cider industry are not too fond of it, because we feel like, it's
Okay.
going to start infiltrating into, some brewers not being as experienced with making cider. But in the interim, people like me who don't have a location yet can come in and say, hey, how are you making that cider? I can help you make a better cider.
Yeah.
Slap my
Well,
name on it.
so yes, for collaborations, being able
Yes,
to
for
help with
collaboration.
the games,
Yes,
but
yes.
if it's mostly beer that they're making the cider, would that not be a cross contamination kind of situation?
You
Like,
know
'cause I
what?
know it's like kombucha, you cannot have it in the same place.
But you know what? It just depends, because I do have like I do know someone who has different tanks. It's pretty much almost the same type of way. There's just a different thing. Like you like cider isn't brewed, so you don't brew cider, so you're
Right.
not like heating it and mashing it and doing all those different things. You would just have to have like maybe one tank, because all you're doing is putting the ingredients in the
Okay.
tank and letting it sit.
Hmm.
So as to where beer, there's sort of a process. So it can, you're right, it can be made within the same facilities, but just using different tanks per se.
Almost like making a lager, because it's just like that takes the longest process when you're making a lager.
Or making
Um,
it not, or not even making a lager, making like a Berliner Weiss or something like that, something like a
mm,
sour, like wherever
okay.
you're making sour beers, you might want to, you can maybe be able to use a cider um, container or vessel rather. So
Well, my last question for you. I saw when I was scrolling, minding my business, loving Jesus like I do,
yeah.
you were looking at something. You were at the state of California at the alcohol and
Yes,
it
I
was,
was
and,
at
and you said, let's
ABC.
go. And I said, can I find out what we were doing there? I don't know if
So
that's a
what?
secret.
So yes, what I was doing was applying for my wine distributor license.
Oh,
So I
nice.
was very excited about that. Yeah, I'm ready to get this thing going. Momentum Cider has to get into stores and get into everyone's hands, and so the buck stops
Okay.
there. So it's the buck starts there rather. I'm going there and filling out the paperwork. It's so intensive, and like I said, I don't. It's just me. I don't have an assistant to say, "Hey, go there and fill out the paperwork." It's like
Right.
I'm doing everything myself, and there's like 12 forms you have to get notarized, and then you got to go to
Mm,
PCB. So every day I, dedicate a few hours to myself to getting my work done for Momentum Cider. So I
that's
just
good.
wanted the world to see that, I'm moving and grooving. It may not look like I'm moving and grooving, but I'm moving and grooving, and it's just me. So
So
yeah.
how are you maintaining that work life balance? Because you have momentum, you have your 9 to 5, and then you have your life at, where you're relaxing, you're
Right.
with your significant other, your person. How are you balancing that, and how is it? Um, you know, the long nights haven't really happened as of yet. I'm sure you've had long nights. How are you
Oh,
balancing
I've had some long nights. Yeah. Um,
that?
it's like just, filling out paperwork and, speaking on panels and making sure that you know what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm a mom too. So it's like I have
Okay.
a lot of things that, and how do
Mhm.
I find balance? Yoga and, I'm a serial incense burner. I love my musical playlist, stuff like that, things that'll help me relax, and I have a group. I'm the excuse me, co-leader, chapter lead for Pink Boots LA. So shout out to Pink
Okay.
Boots. So I can hang out with those girls anytime and they'll make me feel better. That's
That's
my
nice.
girls over there. Yeah. So those are my
Yeah.
girls.
So now I guess let me segue into, will we see you at Pink Boots convention coming up in June?
You know what? A friend of mine just called. I think she's out of North Carolina. She's like, how far are you from Vegas? And I'm like, 4 hours, 4.5 hours. She's like, I'm gonna be at this, the CBC conference. And I'm just like, I gotta go. So I'm thinking about doing it. I'm thinking about just driving on up to Vegas. Vegas is not that
Mhm.
far from Las Vegas is not that far from where I'm at. So it's about 4 hours. Take a
Okay.
rock star. Yeah, take
That's
a
right.
rock star of a Red Bull and just pump gas up there.
Okay, so I'll see you. I might possibly see you at CBC, but I was talking about Philly.
Oh, okay. I thought you was talking about that. No, I don't know about that one. See, I didn't know about that one.
So the Pink Boots conference is coming up. It's going to
So,
be in
okay, wait a
June.
minute. So maybe I'm confused. So which one is the one in Vegas?
It's coming. It's April.
April. Okay, that's the one.
Yes,
Okay, and then
that's
there's
CBC.
another one
Then Pink Boots conference is in June.
is in June. Okay, we'll
Yeah,
see. Maybe we'll see. We'll see if we can get up there.
yeah. Well,
Yeah. Are you gonna be there?
I will. I will be there at both locations. Yeah,
Right on.
yeah,
Okay. So let me see. Maybe I'll put some
yeah.
stuff together and see what I can do.
I know LA usually shows out because Blanca's up that way, and
Yeah.
our president. So yeah, it'd be cool to
I'll
see.
talk to Blanca and I'll talk to Blanca and see what's going
Yeah,
on.
yeah, that'd be great. So, well, Monique, it's been amazing talking to you. I've learned so
Yeah.
much about cider, and I knew I didn't know it. I knew like a little thimble's worth, but now
Right.
knowing just I think because I know Hannah, and I'm always just like just shooting the shit with her. I don't
Hmm.
ask her a whole lot of questions because
Hmm.
we're just like hanging out, but
Hmm.
getting more insight, more in depthness, it really honed in some things that I did not know
Right
about
on.
cyber making, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Well, thank you for having me on your show. I mean, I always see you like, interviewing people and I'm like, and then when you hit me up, I'm like, oh my God, yes, it's my turn. So
Well,
thank you.
I appreciate it, and again, everybody, make sure that you follow Monique with Momentum Cider
Yes.
as she continues on, and she is getting that paperwork together. She's
Yes.
going.
Yes.
You just don't know when it's going to turn around, and
Hmm.
I blink, and you like, she's walking into the building.
Right. There you
No,
go.
so, but I think let's see, next week. Ooh, we got. I, April is chock full of guests. So y'all need to
Okay.
stay tuned. I'm not. I don't want to mess it up by saying somebody's name and then I forgot it's somebody in another month. So y'all stay tuned, and we will see y'all next week.
Yes. Yes.